So you can use, sometimes you have an icon on your desktop that would go into Visio. I have mine down here on the taskbar. Sometimes you would use the start menu. Either way is fine. So let's go into the Visio program. And by the way, there's a PowerPoint presentation, and that'll have some of the steps that we're using. You can get that in the handout section of the webinar. So this is the first screen that we see when we go into Visio. So right away, you can see that it can be used for flowcharts, organization charts, and then if you scroll down further, there starts to be lots of different uses for Visio. Room layouts, like I talked about, business diagrams. And now there's many templates that come with it as well. So if I pick in the word templates, then you'll start to see some different categories, even engineering, like for motherboards and things like this, maps and floor plans, general, flowcharts, computer networks, okay? And then another way to get to the templates is up here. You see some different categories. So if I picked on the word network, you can start out with these templates and then build it from there. So the templates might be ways to save you some time. Here, we can make a flow chart. Now, some of these things can be done in PowerPoint, but you're going to see Visio just has some great tools to make it easier than it is in PowerPoint. All right, but if you go through these different tabs, you see some great templates that you might take advantage of. Also, if you have an internet connection, I'm sure that you do at your home or at your office, you would click here and you can search for just about anything. So if I search for a flow chart, then you would find even more online, as you can see. So there's many, many templates that you can choose from. Let's go back and let's just do a basic diagram, and then we can use some of the other templates later on today. Now, in this case, you can use either the metric units or the US units. I'm recording this here for the United States, so we'll do the US units, but the metric is also available. Okay, so let's go and take a tour of the screen. So you'll notice that it has familiar concepts from other Microsoft Office programs. So of course we have the quick access toolbar. Here, let me show you two quick ways to add things to the quick access toolbar. You can click on that arrow to the right of the quick access toolbar, and then you just pick any one of those. So I'll pick on the word new, and now the new icon is on the quick access toolbar. Or if I click on the arrow, I'll pick on open, and now open is up there as well. Another thing to add things to the quick access toolbar is you just right click on an icon. So I'm going to right click and I'll say add to quick access toolbar. And now that one is up there as well. So this way your favorite icons are available. And that works the same way in Word and PowerPoint and Excel. I use that one a lot. Now, then you see your familiar menu structure. Of course, the new word for the menus is called the tabs. So where my mouse is, sometimes I'll make my mouse do that during the session here. Then that's called the file tab or the file menu. So of course in the file, we get things like open, save, print, everything that's normally on the file is going to be under file here. Then we have the home menu, which is going to be really important for us. Here we have cut and paste and copy and paste, your formatting. Here's your indents and different formatting for the paragraphs. Now, here's something special for Visio. We have these different tools, which we'll talk about, especially the connector. You can format each different image on your illustration is called a shape, right? And the drawing is going to be made up of more, many shapes. This is a nice part of the home menu. This is where I can line things up or make sure they're lined up perfectly. And then we have other editing options there as well. So the home menu clearly is going to be pretty important for us. I'm going to pick in the word insert. So we can insert pictures into our drawing. We can get pictures online, charts, just like the other programs. Now here you can import from CAD software, computer-aided drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and then you'll be able to get some CAD drawings in there as well. So that's very useful. Like I said, we can use Visio for engineering or architecture or these kind of things. So I'll pick on the draw menu. Now with the draw menu, it works better if you have a touch screen, but it'll work even if you don't have a touch screen. If you were to pick on the word draw and then pick on draw with touch, then you can draw on your screen if you have a touch screen, or you can also draw with your mouse. So that's all about if you have a touch screen or want to be able to do things with your mouse. The design menu is going to be very helpful for us. We can change the theme of the entire drawing. Of course, this is also where we do page setup, like portrait and landscape. The paper size, all right? And then later on, I'll talk about how you can add a background onto your drawing. There's some that are built in. And the borders and titles is a nice feature. It very quickly does add borders and titles. And then also on your design menu, we can see some connectors, which are going to connect to shapes in nice ways. The data menu is kind of interesting. We can actually tie Visio to databases like Excel or Access and import data from there and actually make the drawing come from that data. I'm going to show you an example of that towards the end. Now on the process menu, this is a pretty new menu. This ties it into SharePoint with your workflows. So like I said, Visio is part of the Office suite, and then of course it can integrate with all of the other Office programs. That's the way it would integrate with SharePoint. We're not going to talk about that one too much today, but it is possible. So now the review menu is where we have our spell checker, the thesaurus. We can add comments in. And then the view menu is very important. We'll be using some things on the view menu to change the way the screen looks. For example, you see how I have the ruler. I like to see the ruler on the sides or at the top. So under the view menu, you make sure the word ruler is checked. Now, another one that people like under the view menu is the word grid right there. Let's see what that does. See how it gives you the grid on the screen, and maybe that can help you line things up. Now, I'm going to show you that when you move your shapes into the drawing, it gives you some ways to help you line it up, and then I'll show you some ways to make sure that it's going to be lined up. But you see some different choices under the view menu. This, of course, is also where we do, we can zoom in, of course, to get a better view of that. And then I'm going to show you these task panes in a little while as well. And then the help menu is back. For a while, Microsoft was just putting the question mark up there, but now I'm glad that the word help is there so we can get additional help. So Visio is widely supported, but you can start right there with the help screens, of course. Okay, so we're familiar with the menus. We have our quick access toolbar. At the bottom, you have your status bar, and that'll give you some useful information as well. The middle of the screen is called the drawing, and the drawing is going to be made up of many of these shapes. Now, I did a basic drawing at the beginning. So notice how each one of these different tabs over here is called a stencil, and a stencil contains various shapes, as you can see. All right, so right away you see lots of different shapes that you can use. Well, let me show you how you can get more stencils. There's many more actually. If I click on the pull down where it says more shapes, then you start to see there's lots of different stencils. So by the way, you can make up your own favorites with the My Shapes category there, the My Shapes stencil. You can actually make up your own shapes and store them there or put your favorites in there. So now notice under business, so then, each one of these is going to give us more and more stencils. So there's so many different shapes out there. Every time I go into this, there's more and more. So now, like under business process, they have the Six Sigma project planning shapes, specific to that specification. Charts and graphs are in there. We're going to do an organization chart as we go through. Okay, so these are just the stencils. So you can pick and choose which ones that you like, and you can work with various stencils all at the same time. So we'll come back to that. Now also, you can search for shapes over here, and we'll get to that as well. So let's start some of the basics with Visio. So if we look at our PowerPoint presentation, here was the first screen that we went into, and then I can show you how this is showing you how you get to the different templates. And then here, I picked on the word templates, and you can see the different categories. For example, this is going to be the flowchart category, and you see, some great ideas on how to use Visio or what to use it for. Excuse me. This one is the floor plan shape. I'm going to show you how to make a floor plan today. And then, okay, so we start with the basic diagram, and we start with US units, and I picked on the word create, and that's what that slide is. So this slide will show you the pane over here that shows your stencils and your shapes, and that's where we are right now. So of course, I'll go back to Visio. So you can call this a diagram or a drawing, and we'll be able to share this with all the other programs in Microsoft Word. So let's go with our basic shapes over here. That's called a stencil that contains the shapes. So then the quick and easy way to move your shapes onto a slide or onto the drawing is just to drag it. So I'll pick up the word rectangle and just drag it right into here, okay? Now, of course, you can move that around. Now, you see the little circle up top there? Well, then we can rotate that. So you move your mouse, you click on the shape first. Of course, you see the sizing handles. You click on the shape, and then, of course, you can rotate it with the circle. Right? So you have a lot of flexibility here. But now, as far as formatting, you'll be able to format this to the nth degree. So if you click on the Home menu, then the shape can have a fill color, which is going to be the background color. The shape can have an outline color, which is the line. So let's give it like a dark black line for the border. And also under the line, I'll say weight and make it like a big, a thicker line. Good. So that'll make it stand out. Good. All right. And then there's special effects that you can add, like 3D and things like that. Then there's also your shape styles, which are preset formats, and you can just use one of those. So I can type into that shape. So I want to associate text with that shape. So I'm going to click there, and I'll say first shape. And that text will be associated with that shape. And then if I move the shape, then the text will come with it. Okay? Now, to edit the text, you can right-click on that shape, and then pick on Edit Text. So you're just going to pick up your shapes from the stencil and just move them into your diagram. So I can pick on triangle and so on. Now notice when I move these in, it gives you these visual cues and to make sure that those would be lined up, you see. So it's very, very subtle. You really have to look for that. But if I move the shape around, then you get those visual cues and you can see how it would help you line things up. The grid helps you as well. Now, some people don't like the grid. If you want to turn the grid off, then I'll pick in the View menu. Then I'll pick in the word Grid and turn that off. Some people would rather have it freeform. So the ruler can help you line things up. The grid can help you line things up. Like, let's say I want to make sure it's on that horizontal line. Okay? And then when I move a shape, then you get those green lines, which will help you line things up as well. Now, this drawing can have many, many shapes. Now, your drawing might get rather large, especially the engineering drawings or blueprints and things. If you look down here, then we can add new pages to that drawing. So I would just pick on the plus sign, almost like adding sheets to your Excel spreadsheet. I would just pick on the plus sign, and then you see how we have page 1 and page 2 and so on. Now, if you wanted to delete that page, I can just right-click on that page and then pick on Delete. Of course, we can rename it. Or notice how one of the choices said duplicate that sheet or the page, so we'll pick on Delete there as well. Okay. Now, let me show you some shortcuts here. Of course, if you just pick up a shape and drag it, then, that's no problem with that. Now, I'm going to get rid of that text, for example. So I'm going to right-click and pick on Edit Text, and I'll delete the text. If I want to copy that shape, of course we could do copy and paste, but a really quick way is to hold down the Control key. So on my keyboard, I'm going to hold down the Control key. Then you move to that shape and you'll see a little plus sign if you look really closely. Then when you drag it, it makes a copy of that shape, you see. I'm going to hold down the Control key and then just pick up the shape and drag it. Now it's making a copy. Now, it put those kind of in that group automatically. That they're not grouped together yet, but it kind of is saying that those items could be together. So you can start to duplicate your shapes pretty easily just by holding down your control key before you drag it. Now here you can see it went over to this other section of the page. So maybe my page stops at 11 if it's letter size. So I'm just going to move that back to that. Now let's say you want to start lining things up. Now, of course, you can line things up by moving them, but here's an automatic way to line things up. If you want to pick more than one shape, then you can hold down your Shift key. That's one way to do it, or you can also do the lasso effect. So if I start here, hold down my left mouse button, and highlight all these shapes, or that area, then they're all selected. So that's called the lasso method. But sometimes you just want to pick the shapes individually. So I'm going to click on this shape, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and I'll pick on this one, and I'll hold down the Shift key and pick on this one. And you can see now they're all selected. Let me show you some great ways to automatically line things up. We'll go back to the Home menu. And then under Home, I'll pick on the word Align. And then I want to align the left margins. You see what I mean by that? So I pick on Align Left, and now they're perfectly lined up. All right, so let's try that again. I'm going to undo. Undo, of course, is available. So I'm going to pick on this shape, hold down my Shift key, and pick on this one and this one. Then I'll pick on the Home menu, and we'll say Align. Now, if the items are on top of each other, like these are, you would align the left or the center or the right margins. If the items are next to each other, then you might align the top, middles, or bottoms. So let's do Align Left, and that's exactly what happened. Now, this is a pretty good one. Let's say I want those to be evenly spaced. Well, they're still selected. In this case, I'll pick on the word Home, then I'll pick on the word Position, and then in this case, I'm going to say Distribute Vertically, and that'll make them evenly spaced. It's very subtle. It's just going to move a little tiny bit here, but now they're evenly spaced, okay? So let's try this again with the triangle. So let's say you're kind of moving these around, and you want, now you want to line those up. So I'm going to pick on the first one, hold down my Shift key, pick on this one and this one. Now they're all selected. In this case, I'll pick on Align and then Top. And you can see how they're all top aligned. Then I want to make them evenly spaced. Now, they look like they're evenly spaced, but I bet they move a little tiny bit here. I'll pick in the word Position, and I'll say Distribute Horizontally this time, and now they're perfectly spaced. So those are great tools to make sure that things are perfectly spaced. Now, let's say I want to align those three with this one over here. Looks like they're a little tiny bit off. So I'm going to hold down my Shift key again and pick on this other one. Now they're all selected. Then I'll pick on Align, and I'll pick on Align Top, and now they're aligned with the top margin. And then I'll pick on the word Position, and I'll say Distribute Horizontally. Looking good, and you can tell that they are. Now, right now, let's say you like those the way that those are lined up, and you want to keep those together as a group. So here's what you do: you select multiple items. You right-click on one of the items, and then you pick in the word Group, and then I'll pick in the word Group again. Now, guess what? Now, if you move one, they all come with it. All right? So once you get things lined up, maybe you want to make that group so that they will stay positioned with each other. Now, the group is temporary. You can remove the group. So I'm going to click on that shape, right-click on it, and then I'm going to go ahead and say Group, and we'll say, then we'll right-click here, and I'll say Group, and then Ungroup. Good. But now they're back to being individual items again. All right, so I'm just kind of showing you how to get around this screen. Now, in this case, I'm going to start a new presentation. Well, let's just go to a different page. I want to show you something that's called a connector. So I'll pick on the rectangle and just drag it in. Oh, so when that green line comes up like that, that means it's perfectly in the middle of the drawing. So notice how I'm moving around, and then when you get the green line, then you know that's perfectly centered. Or if I move it down, then the green line is going to go across. Now I know it's perfectly centered that way. So that does help you to make it sure that things are going to be lined, maybe in the center of the document. Just kind of look for that. It's really subtle. When you move it, you can get that green line. Okay. So now I want to add a new shape into this. So let's say on a circle. Like we'll do a flow chart, and these would be great flow chart type of icons. But there is a template for the flow charts as well. But I'm going to go ahead and add the circle in. Now notice how the green lines do come up, and I can see that those are going to be aligned. It just takes a little bit of practice. When you move that in, this kind of goes slow, and then you'll see the green lines, and then you can see how those are going to be lined up. So the connectors are great because that means if I move one shape, then the connector will go with it. So we're going to pick on the home menu at this time. And then you can really connect just about any shapes with other shapes. So this time I'll pick in the word connector. Now watch what you're going to do. You're going to move to the first shape that you want to connect, and it'll show you the connection points, which could be either at the center or on the sides here. So look, see where my mouse is? I'm going to get that, and then you drag it to the second shape, and now those two are connected. So look, if I move this one, now you want to remember to turn the connector tool off. So you go back to the pointer tool here on the home menu. Now if I drag that, see how the line comes with it, okay? So that's a nice kind of connector. The line comes with it in that case. Now that connector is built right into the home toolbar, as you can see. There's ways to get other connectors as well. Now, for example, if I pick on the design menu, then over here, you have more connectors, okay? So there's more connectors there. There's also a stencil that I have more of the connectors. So let's start to build maybe a nice flow chart. So what I'll do is I'm going to come over here, and I want to find a different stencil. And I'll do more shapes, and you see flowchart. And usually I'll use basic flowcharts. And then the other ones are available as well. So each of these different stencils would have different shapes. Good. Now I can have as many stencils open as you need. And then here is this one. So now I've been programming as professionally for over 30 years. And to make a program, a lot of times we would make a flow chart, okay? So let's start to do that. So it would always start, like this would be the start type of, the beginning of it. So I'll just move this in to our diagram. And you can see that green line came up. Now I know that's at the center. And let's say, I'll say begin. So let's say I'm going to make a flow chart on how to make a cup of coffee, okay? So then I want to have a process, like a process would be a step. So I'll pick on the word process, just drag that right in there, okay? Now I'll say get a cup. Then I'll have another process, and I'll say I have like let's say the K cup. So I'll say get a K cup. And then I'll have another process. So I'm just going to move these up now. And then I'll say put K cup in coffee maker. And so on, right? So now I want to be able to connect those. So we'll pick on the home menu, and I'll start to connect them. So I'll pick on the connector, and I'll go from this one to this one. And then from this one to this one, and this one to this one, right? So now if I move any one of those, then they would stay connected. So I like those connectors. So now let's add another shape in here. Remember to go back to your pointer tool. That's important because otherwise the connector is stolen. I'll pick on the pointer tool. And now this time I have a decision. So this is the classic decision icon. So I'll say, do I want cream? Okay, and then we're going to connect that one. So I'll pick on the connector again and connect these two. So this will be if it's yes, and this one will be if it's no. So I'll add another process in, and I have another process over here. So notice how the connectors are automatically going into there, and we'll do a connector, and I'll do this one here, this one here. Now that connector was still on, so I'm actually going to go back to the pointer tool, click on this one and delete it. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So now I'll say this will be for add cream. Don't add cream. So you can see I'm using the tools that come with Visio. I'm easily building this flowchart. Now, I'd like that line to have text also. So I clicked on the line and I'll say yes there. And I'll click on this line and I'll type in no. Okay? So we use the flowchart stencil, and then you see the shapes are there. And then the connector is really, really a great tool, as you can see. So I'm going to save my presentation. And just like the other Microsoft Office programs, it's going to default to your Documents folder, but of course we can use other folders. So I'll call this one the Coffee Flowchart. It's going to make a file that's VSDX, and that's a Visio file. Okay. Now, a great part about Visio is it can share the data with the other Microsoft programs. For example, you can see how this would be easier to make here in Visio than it would be in PowerPoint. And I just do so much more with this than I can in PowerPoint. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click on this shape, and I'll pick on, you right-click in the background, I'll pick on the copy. And then let's go into PowerPoint. And I'm going to add a new slide here. So I'll pick on the home menu. I'll pick on the pull down where it says paste, and I'll say paste special. And then I'll pick on paste link. What that means, it means if the diagram changes in Visio, it'll change here as well. And this will work in any Microsoft program. In fact, you can go between any two Microsoft programs just like this. You copy from one, you do a paste special, paste link into the other. So if we change one, it'll change the other. And then here we are in PowerPoint, and there's that Visio diagram. So in PowerPoint, I can move that around. No, it's moving it as a whole unit here. Even in PowerPoint, I can make sure that is centered. Good. So now watch. I'm going to go back to Visio. And let's say we're going to add another step. And we'll have another decision here. So I'll add another decision shape onto the drawing, and I'll say, do you want sugar? And then that'll have a yes or a no. So I'll add a process here, and I'll say add sugar. And don't. Okay. So now watch what's going to happen. I'm going to go back to PowerPoint. And now PowerPoint, if it doesn't update automatically, then I can right-click on that PowerPoint drawing and say Update Link, and then it will have the newest changes. That worked because we did a copy, and we came over here and we said Paste Special and then Paste Link. All right, so Visio does work with your other Microsoft programs very, very well, as we can see. Let's go back to Visio now. That would work in Word or PowerPoint or even Outlook. you do a copy from Visio, you go into the other program and you say paste special and then paste link. So then if we change it here, it'll change in the other programs as well. So I'm going to change this a little bit. After they add the cream, actually we don't, let's say we're not going to add the no there. So I'm going to click on this box. I'm rethinking this now. So I'm going to get rid of this one. If no, then we're just going to do nothing, right? So I want to connect these two boxes. So I'll do the connector again. And I'm just going to drag it from here to there. Now those are connected. Now watch what I'll do. I want, after they add the cream, I just want to go right back into the flow again. So I'm going to say, get the connector and just, I'm drawing with my hand here. And then I'll go right back into the flow here, you see? So this is really the great part about Visio is you can make these kind of flow charts and the connectors work very nicely. Now I need another connector from here. I'm thinking this box is really not necessary. So I'll pick on the pointer tool and then we'll pick on that shape and then get rid of that, okay? So I'm gonna put a no here. I just clicked on that and then you just type in your text, you know? So obviously a flow chart is a shape that Visio handles very, very well. Now, you're not limited to using the shapes that are in that stencil. I can use shapes from any stencil. I can mix and match these as much as you wanted to. So to get to your additional stencils, you pick on more shapes, and then you pick on one of these categories, and you start to see the different stencils, okay? So one drawing could have shapes from, you know, as many stencils as you want. You can mix and match them as much as you wanted to. So now, if you have the Pro edition like I do, then you'll get more stencils. And they're always adding more and more. All right, so just... Now, let's say you're not sure which stencil a shape might be in. Then what you can do is you can search for a shape. So let's say, you know, maybe I want a picture of coffee here, or I want some kind of coffee shape here. So I'll just type in coffee. I'm not even sure if there's going to be any in there. And there is. There's the coffee maker and the actual cup of coffee and so on. You know, so I might add those in just as a point of reference, you know. But all I'm trying to say is we can add our shapes into, there's lots of different shapes here, and you can search on them, as you can see. All right? So that's a half decent flow chart. Now, another thing that Visio can do is it can make a whole room diagram. So let's go back to PowerPoint for a second. That's where I copy and pasted it into PowerPoint. And then this is on this slide, I showed you how to search the shapes. You can search for just about anything, and it'll probably find something for you that you can use. It comes with literally thousands of shapes that are out there. This is where I extended, and you saw the different stencils. And then if you do have the Pro version like I have, you get more stencils and more shapes. Okay, this is where I'm starting to use the connector. So there's the insert menu. And in the insert menu, we could do pictures, or there's where I did the CAD drawing. The design menu, let's do the design menu. So I'll go back to our Visio presentation. On the design menu, you can easily add a theme to your presentation. I like these ones over here that are called backgrounds and borders and titles. This is a really quick way to add things. So I'll pick on the background, and that would be like the background of the entire presentation. So there's some that are built in. Now, in this case, I like the ones that are called borders and titles. So this gives you a professional look to your presentation very quickly. So let's say I'm going to go with this one. Now notice what just happened. By the way, you can zoom out over here as well with the traditional zoom. Or another way to zoom is with the view menu over here. Now notice what it just did. I'm actually going to move this whole thing down now because that title is now overlapping that. So I want to get all of these shapes and move them at once. So again, I'm going to maybe start here, drag my mouse, highlight that whole thing, and they all should be selected now. Good. And then I'll move them as a group. Excellent. Good. So notice how it says title there and the date. And at the bottom, it probably says something as well. It says page 2. Now, this is really important. When you add that background, or if you add the border like I just did under the design menu, notice how I can't click on the word title right there. You have to look down here. It's actually on a separate tab, right? So if I want to get to the background, I'll pick on the tab that's called V background. Then I can get to it. So, so you can actually start to layer things on top of each other. So I'll pick on the title there. Now I want to right click on that and I'll say edit text. And I'll say coffee flowchart. Good. So now if I go back to page 2, then you see that it changed there. So actually when you add the background or when you add the border and the title from the design menu, typically it'll put that in a different tab. You have to look down here. Then I can actually get to that and change the text, as you can see. But that just kind of gave it a nice professional look. Now another thing that we can do with Visio is, how about a room layout? So we're going to save this one. And let's go ahead and go to a different presentation. So I'll pick on File. We'll do a new presentation here. And right now, I'll just go with, how about a basic diagram again? Or how about if we use a template? So I'll go back to, here it says floor plans. Okay, that's good. And then depending on the template that you choose, it'll start with different stencils. So how about the home plan? And again, I'm going to use US units. And now we're in a whole different drawing. Now with these, everybody, what you would do is you're going to add a room. So there's a room shape, as you see. Okay? So I'll pick the word room. I'm going to drag it over to here. Now we're going to resize that with the sizing handles. Now let me show you how you can make sure this is going to be the perfect size. We pick in the view menu, we pick in the word task panes, and then you say size and position. Okay, so then we can really get very, very specific here. So I'm going to click on the room shape, and then notice over here it says height and width. Now I can move this window. Sometimes people like it over on the side. That looks better. Okay, I just dragged it over. So let's say our room is going to be 10 feet wide by 20 feet, 10 by 20. All right, let's try something else. Let's try, well, I see my scale over here. So let's zoom back in again. That's because the scale that I use. That's better. Okay? So now we have a 10 by 20 room, okay? So this window is called size and position. I can get very, very exact now. So in this case, what I did is said view, task panes, and then size and position. All right, now let's start building our room. So let's say we have a door. Notice how there's a door shape. So watch, we'll just pick up the door and you move it to, someplace within that room. So let's see, right there is where the door is. And it actually made that door as part of the room. So let's say we have, let's say within that room, so we can add all kinds of different things, all these different shapes, right? We have a sliding glass, all these different things are in there. So now let's add some furniture. So there's actually some furniture shapes, So let's, so there's the door. So maybe over here, I'd like to have a table. So I'm going to scroll down under the furniture. Before we do our tables, let's add the electrical outlets. So I'll pick on electrical, and then you see, things that would be good for electrical and telecom. So let's do the socket outlets would be here. So I have, let's say there's one on this wall, and this wall. So I'll pick up socket outlets and drag it over to here. Good. You might make that a little bit bigger. But there's socket outlets there, and the socket outlets there. I'm just dragging these right in, right? That'll be good, and you can see what they look like. Now let's start adding the furniture in. So I want to have a table right over there. If we look at some of my furniture within the furniture stencil, we have a desk, a rectangular table, and so on. So right there, I'll do a rectangular table. Now this is where that size and position window will come in. So that table is really only 2 by 3. So you can do the exact shapes, the exact sizes with the size and position window. Let's say it's going to be right over there. Good. So let's say over here we have a couch. So I will go back to the furniture stencil and I see a sofa. Okay, so we'll pick on the sofa and we want it right about there. And let's say the sofa is 7 feet and that looks good to me. Okay, so what else do we have in the room? We have a TV. So let's say the TV is going to be right over here. There's the TV unit, and we'll move it right into there. Now that one looks kind of big. So, you know, a 2 by 9, let's say it's really going to be 2 by 5. Perfect. And then I can just move it exactly where you want that to be. Let's say with that table, maybe the table is more in the center of the room, and we would have some chairs there around the table, right? So look what you can do. I mean, a lot of these shapes are built. Of course, we have a little plant in the corner. Good. So I'm working with that 10 by 20 room, and you can kind of lay out this room exactly like we're doing here. This is the beautiful part about Visio. You can get very, very exact with that size and position window. Now, in this case, I'm not seeing the chair that I want. Oh, there it is. So we'll pick on the chair, and let's say we have a chair right there. Now that one I want to rotate. So I'm going to rotate it so it's facing more towards the table. I want to have a night table right there, or just another table right there, a small table. All right, so you can just see what I'm doing. There's the table. We want that right there. Of course, it's not going to be that big. Good. Excellent. Right? So I really like that size and position window where you can get very, very exact. And in this case, now we're filling out that the 10 by 20 room. Oh, that's right. We have a bookcase over here. And notice how the lines are coming up, so we make sure things are lined up. And now we have a good looking room, right? So we're going to save that one. And we'll call that room layout. So I want to make sure that we, get the basics here, but you can see we're really getting some things done. Let's go back to PowerPoint. So in this case, I was talking about the design menu. So there you have some themes. That's where you can do the size of the page and the orientation. That's also where I added that border. This slide is the data menu. Okay, so another great use of Visio is to make an organization chart. Let's make an organization chart by hand, and then I'll show you how we can pull it into from Excel data. So we'll go back to Visio. And we see that there's that nice room. I don't know if this room has room for a grand piano or not, but that's one of the shapes. You see that, right? So maybe this is where everybody watches the football game. So maybe we have a mini bar right over here. So we just add that in. Excellent. All right, looking good. So maybe it needs to be closer to the wall. All right. And now you can see all of that would fit into the 10 by 20 room. Very good. So then I would have maybe another room that would have the exercise equipment, or maybe we have bedrooms, so you can see there's different furniture in there. And I bet if you search, you can find even more. Now, I can use other templates in there, or remember, if I picked on more shapes, I can get other templates over here as well. So we're going to save that one. Let's make an organization chart. So I'll do File, New, and you'll see that we have an organization chart template right there. And that'll give us certain stencils, which will have certain shapes. Good. Now, in this case, we have the organization chart. So I'm going to close these windows now, or at least minimize them. Good. All right. Now, in this case, I'm going to make a new page here. So you can see how you would have the different positions. So I want to have an executive. Just move it in there. Now notice what that shape looks like. I can add the person's picture in there as well. So then we can add a title onto that and so on. So if I right click, Then I can change the position type to executive or manager and so on. And then if I click on there, let's say that person's going to be Joe Smith, and that'll be the name. Okay. Now, as far as getting to the title, we're going to open up another window over here. We'll pick on View, and then Task Pane, and then we pick on Shape Data. That's another really good task pane, Shape Data. Good. See, now I can change things like the title and the other information. I'll just move this over here. And let's say for the title, that's the CEO. And then that'll show up on the organization chart. Now, let's say that person has a few people under them. So look, I'm going to pick on the one that says 3 positions and move it right onto that shape. And then it automatically added 3 people underneath of that. So that's a really good time saver. I'll pick up 3 positions and add it onto this one. And then you can start to see the organization chart is building a little bit quicker than doing them one by hand. Now, each one of those would have let's try to add a picture onto that. So I would click on that shape. I'm going to right click on it. You pick in the word picture, and then you would change the picture and you would point to a picture file on your computer. So, okay. So I have a picture of myself there, and look what happened. I really put that onto the diagram. So you can see pretty quickly using these shapes within the template, I can start to build a nice organization chart. And then many times, of course, your organization chart will go to the next page. So that, there's going to be multiple people there, of course. Now, I want to add an assistant to the CEO. So watch, we'll pick up the assistant, drag it over. I'm going to put it right under the CEO, and it moves everything accordingly. And then the CEO has that assistant, right? So it'll work with you. It's pretty flexible. I know we can do an organization chart in PowerPoint or in Word, but notice how it just seems like it's quicker here, and there's a lot more I can do with it for sure. Now, check this out. We're going to go to a different page. We can actually import data from an Excel spreadsheet and have this build for us automatically. So let's take a look at the Excel spreadsheet. And we'll go into this one that I have. It's called Org Data. So now the first row would have to have your field names. Then notice how we have the name, the title. The reports to is going to be important. Who does that person report to? And that'll help Visio build the organization chart. So like this one doesn't have anything where it says reports to, because that Joseph is at the top of the organization chart. So that reports to is important, and it has to be one of those names. And then that'll help Visio build the organization chart. And then this is supplemental information. That'll wind up on that window that was called Shape Data. And then which shape do we want to use? So it'll use that information as well. You can see what the Excel spreadsheet looks like. Now, let's see if we can pull this into Visio. This is where we start to use the data menu, okay? So I'll pick on Quick Import. And I'm going to go to that Excel workbook. There it is. Good. So it's trying to get that going on. Now, in this case, actually, I want to go in a different way. So let me go back to the organization chart, and I'll add another new page. So in this case, if I do org chart, and then pick on import data there, that's the one that'll make it work with the Excel spreadsheet in this particular example. So I'll pick an org chart, and I'll pick an import. That happened because I used the org chart stencil. So I'll pick on import. Now I'll point to my Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to use a text file or an Excel file. And I'm going to point to that same one, which is right there. Good. Now, it wants to know what field contains the name. So these will be the fields from the Excel spreadsheet. It did default to name there, which is correct. And then notice how it wants to have that reports to. And we have a field in Excel that's called reports to. And the first name is optional. It'll just put the full name in there. Now I can add additional information. So this information will show up on that shape data window. So let's use the telephone, and that'll be fine. And then this is going to be more fields that you might want to show if you want to show more fields in the data. So if you have pictures, maybe you would point to a list of pictures that you have. But we can always add the pictures individually like I showed you. And now we're done with the wizard. So I'm going to go ahead. It's going to make it into multiple pages probably. It says you make it across page. Otherwise, that page might be too busy. And then here it comes. Give it a second. And now it actually probably started on page 4. And there it is. So if I can zoom in on that, of course. And then these are the names and the titles that came over from the Excel spreadsheet. So Visio can work with the other Microsoft programs, as we can see. Now, if I click on that shape, everybody, then you would go back to that View menu and then pick on the Task pane and pick on Shape Data. Actually, it's probably open over here. So let's see if we can get to that. There's the shape data still. And then you see the phone number that came over and so on and so on. Okay? So really, that worked very nicely. It was a great way to take data from Excel and pull it right into Visio. So if we pick on the data menu, then the other shapes can be connected to other sources of data as well. And you would use the data menu to do that. The process menu will actually work with SharePoint workflows, as we can see. So now let's go ahead. Let's say you want to make up your own shape. So I'm actually going to go back to one of the earlier ones. We'll go back to the coffee flowchart. So in this case, I'll pick on View and then switch windows and go back to that drawing over there. There it is. Okay, good. And I'll maximize that. So here's how to make your own shape. I'll just go to a blank page here. So now in this case, I want to go back into, I'm going to close that search, and we'll just go back to our basic shapes, which are usually always available, okay? So I'm going to add the square in there. So I'm going to make that square formatted. So I'll make it, let's say we're going to make that red, and I want a black background, a black border, and I want that to be a nice thick black border. Good. So, and I want to have like a 3D effect there. So I'll pick on the effects, and we'll try one of these, like a 3D effect. Like that one. Good. All right. So you make that shape the way you want that to be. Now, I'm going to go to a special stencil now. I'm going to go to More Shapes, and then you pick on My Shapes, and then you pick on Favorites. These other stencils really can't be edited, but you put yours into your My Shapes and then Favorites, and then notice how that stencil is now open. Now look, I'm just going to pick that up and drag it over into my favorites. I'm going to say yes to this question, and now that is in there. I'll probably give that a better name. I'm going to right click there, I'll say rename, and I'll call that red square. So now I can use that on any of my diagrams. It's just available to be used, as you can see. And then I would make sure that I save that, of course. But this way, I just made up my own shapes, and then you can just use that. And then remember, if I want to get if I want to copy it, I just hold down the Control key and then just drag it out, and I can just make a bunch of those. Okay. One more thing I want to show you here, and we'll start wrapping up. I want to show you how you can number the shapes. So let's make a new diagram here. And in this case, why don't we go back to where we had the room. Good. So I'm going to make another page here. So let's say you have a bunch of tables, and we have like the round tables, and I want to have a bunch of those. Again, so I'm just going to copy them by using that control key method and then dragging them. What if I want to number those? So 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Watch what we'll do. You pick on the View menu, and you pick on the word Add-ons. And then you pick on the word Visio Extras, and we'll see number shapes, okay? So we did View, and then Add-ons, Visio Extras, and then number shapes. So I'm going to say number them manually when clicking. So I'll pick on OK. So you leave this window open. You just click on them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, when I click on Close there, now if I zoom in, you'll see that those shapes have those numbers. You see number 5 there. And if I scroll back, you'll see this will be 4 and so on. So that was quick and easy. Now let's try another method. So I'm going to add a new page, and we'll do a different shape. So this time I'll just go back to the basic shapes. Good. And this time we'll just use the circles. Now remember, I'm going to hold down my control key and just drag them out. And just make copies of those, right? Now, I want them to be all numbered. So I'm going to highlight all of them with the lasso effect. They're all selected. Then I'll pick on View, Add-ons, Visio Extras, and I'll say Number Shapes. This time I'll pick on Auto Number. When I click on OK, notice how if we zoom in, now each one of those will have a number. So you can quickly number your shapes like that as well. So at this time, see there's the View menu, and you see some great features under the View menu on that slide. And what's the last slide that we have? The last slide is where we would save it into different formats. Of course, we would just pick on File and then Save As, and you see we could save it as a Visio drawing, or as a JPEG, or as a PDF, and so on. So at this time, we're going to open it up for questions. So let's go back to Visio here. And we'll go back to the room layout. And we'll go back to the other page where we had the nice room there. So now how did I get those in color? That's a good question. I didn't do anything special. It just is like that automatically. Now let's see if I can change the color of those. If I click on that shape, does it let me change the color of those? Oh yeah, it does. Okay, so I can click on that shape and then pick on the home menu and just change the colors with the fill. So that will. So I'm not sure why yours is coming up in black and white, but here we can change the color of this, right? So that should give you that option. Is that working for you? Or here's another thing you can do. I could say Insert Online Picture, and I'll try to find a sofa there. Of course, they'll find any sofas. So we'll pick, like this one should be like a graphic that we should change. So I'll pick on this one. And now that can be a shape in my Visio. I bet that one is one that we can change the color. Maybe not. But anyway, you can get the idea. The ones that come with that should be able to click there and then change the color using the home menu. That is working for me. But I can get pictures from online as well. Right. So let's go back to our org chart. So we'll be a view, switch windows. Okay. So we'll go to one of our pages here. If I click on that shape within the org chart, I'm going to right click on it, and I can pick on that picture here and then delete the picture. All right. And that will delete the picture. Another thing that you can do is maybe try a different layout. So for example, I'm going to pick on this, diagram. Let's pick on the design menu and then relay out the page. And then maybe some of these other ones wouldn't have those will be like the different formats. Okay, so that's not the exact one I was looking for. Let's see if we can find a different template for that. That just changes the colors. So let's see, org chart. Layout, that's it. So I think I can pick some of these different layouts and they won't have the pictures. But otherwise, I can click on that slide, right click on it, pick on picture, and then say delete. That would be the quick way, okay? There used to be a way to change to a different layout completely that wouldn't have the pictures. I'm just not seeing it right now, but you can see I can just get rid of those. Let's see if we can get rid of them all at the same time. So I'm going to right click, pick on picture, and then delete, and that worked. All right, so that way you can get rid of them all at the same time. Yes, what would be the specific question? So let's give it a shot. So let's go to a blank page. And you can see that I'm in this stencil that has the organization charts. And I'll go to a blank page. So now let's see if there's other stencils for that. So if I pick on business, this says organization chart, right? And then you have different stencils that will have those. So I'm sure you can find something that would meet your needs. So let's try let's try this one for example. And then you see some different ones there. I see that was going to be maybe the ones with the pictures. So let's try a different one. So organization chart, coin, notch, panel, perspective, panel. So it looks like all of those will just be different ways to show them. So I haven't seen this one before, Shapetacular. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pick on executive and move it right into here. Of course, that one would have the picture. So now let's say that person has a manager. So I'll pick up manager and you drag it onto that person and then it'll automatically put that as a subordinate, okay? If I wanted, let's say I wanted 5 people under this guy. So then we would do multiple shapes because 3 is only going to give you 3. So we'll do multiple shapes and drag it right onto the red one. And then it'll say, how many do you want? I want 5 people and they're all consultants. And I'll click on OK. And then that's going to put 5 people underneath of that one. So I like these tools that are included here. Now, let's say under the manager, I want 2 more. I mean, under the CEO, I want 2 more managers. So I'll do manager. All right, we'll do a multiple shape again. We'll pick a multiple shape and drag it onto the CEO. I want managers. I want 2 of those. And now see how it'll put them right next to the other person. Now, another thing that we can do is we can click on the shape and then you'll pick in the org chart menu. And you get some, now you can see different ways to display that. Here is another place I can get to the picture. Okay. And then this is also where I showed you how to import that from Excel. Now, let's say, let's see, the dotted line. So maybe this person also has a dotted line relationship to the CEO. So I'll get the dotted line, drag it in. So then you move the connectors to this shape, and then you move the connectors, to this other shape. And then you can see it made that dotted line connection there as well. So that's kind of a quick overview of how that works. I'm using the newest version. It's called 2019. So when you get Office 365, it doesn't come with Visio. You buy it separately, but this is the newest version. 2019 is what they're calling it. And you can get let's try something. If you go to the internet, and I'll type in Microsoft Visio. You look for the one that has either office.com or microsoft.com. These other ones are advertisements. So you look for the one that says office.com or microsoft.com, which is this one. That's the official site. Then there's different ways you can get it. You can just get the online one, or if you get the pro version, you get the online and the desktop version, as you can see. They both come with OneDrive, which is a cloud storage system with Microsoft. And if you'll notice down at the bottom here, you can try it for free. So you can get a free month trial somewhere on that window. All right, so you can always try it before you buy it, type of thing. And then there it is. And then after the 30-day period, it would expire, and then you wouldn't be able to use it until you actually paid for it.